She is back, everyone. Our Honda Super Blackbird is finally back in action after a short break. She's MOT'd and she is roadworthy once again. Now, today we're going to be discussing what it is like riding one of these behemoth motorcycles for the very first time. These big sport tourers, these big sport bikes, things like that. What is the experience going to be like when you first sit in the saddle? Well, let's jump on and let's find out. So I've been riding bikes like these now for about 5 years or so. We've got the Blackbird here, of course, and we've got my Kawasaki ZZR 1400 or ZX14 if you prefer. These are big bikes. Now, in terms of kind of like the engine sizes and that, they're not really anything special. I mean, this is an 1100cc, the ZZR is 1441cc, the Hayabusa is 13 something, I can't even remember, but it's a 1300 effectively. But they are physically imposing. That's one of the first things that you're probably going to see immediately, or what you're going to realize immediately as soon as you sit in the cockpit, is just how big everything is around you. And to be fair, when you pick the bike up off the kickstand as well, you're probably going to feel that it is quite heavy, but don't worry about that, because as soon as you get moving, the weight will just magically disappear. Honestly, it's really cool riding bikes like these, because you don't really expect them to be as nimble as they are, but then as soon as you start riding them, yeah, your mind will change almost immediately. Like, as soon as I've got past 10 mile an hour, all of a sudden it's like riding any other bike. But if you're going from a 600, for example, to a bike like this, probably the biggest difference that you're going to notice is going to be how much torque you're getting. Now, these bikes, yes, they are producing a lot of horsepower. Like, what is this, like 160, 170 horsepower or so at the top end? You know, there are lots of bikes these days that are producing 200 horsepower and things, but super heavyweight bikes like this and the ZZR 1400 and the Hayabusa, they're able to produce more torque much lower down in the rev range. So whereas with 1000cc sport bikes and with 600cc sport bikes, you have to spool them up a little bit to get the most amount of power out of them. Well, that's not really the case with bikes like this. Oh, this GoPro is giving me problems already. I might have to pull over and sort that one out in a moment. But yeah, from 1000 RPM all the way through, you are getting torque, you are getting power, and you are going to have to get used to that a little bit, because most of the time in most bikes, you're going to get to like 5000 RPM or so before you really start getting into the power, getting into the meat of the power. But with this, it's going to come in far sooner. You're going to feel that power kicking a lot earlier. And and the thing is, though, like, a lot of people might say that that's too much, that that's over the top or what have you, the feeling that you get. But to me, this is actually the perfect feeling, because this is usable power. This is power that you have access to at regular everyday speeds. All right, it's not like as if you've got to be doing 50, 60, 70, 80 mile an hour before you start actually getting into the power of the bike. You have it at your fingertips. You have it right where you need it. And to me, that is absolutely perfect. That's why these bikes are actually very well suited for street riding, despite, if you look at the spec sheet, or, I mean, you look at the reputation, this bike's reputation was the fastest motorcycle in the world back in, what, the late 90s? All right, and it is still a wickedly fast bike, but there are quite a few more now these days that are faster than this one, and including the ZZR 1400 as well. That is a quicker bike in every way. It's got more torque, it's got a quicker 0 to 60, it's got a quicker quarter mile. So, I mean, but that bike is significantly newer. That's a 2016, this bike is a 2002. They are going to be significantly different in terms of the overall kind of development, especially when you talk about performance. But it doesn't change the fact that this bike is still very, very quick, still has buckets of torque. And when I say buckets of torque, I mean, to some of you who have never been on a bike like this before, it's going to be the most torque that you've probably ever experienced in your life, in your riding careers. It's a huge amount of torque. And there are only really a few bikes out there that can match the torque feeling that you're getting on bikes like this. You know, like the bikes mentioned already, But also you've got bikes like my ZH2 are up there. You've got bikes like the MT10, the MT09. These are bikes that they have lower specs than the Blackbird here, but they feel just as, if not more, torquey than this. It's kind of impressive what Yamaha have been able to do with their MT line of bikes, because their spec sheets are not that impressive whatsoever, but then when you ride them, my goodness, are they good. They're very, very good, you guys. And never ever overlook a motorcycle just because the spec sheet isn't quite as impressive as you thought it should be. You know what I mean? Ride the bike first. If you like the look of it and it's a well-known brand and you've done your research and the bike is good, then first things first, test ride the bike. Don't judge it until you've test ridden it. If you don't like it, then that's fair enough. But up until that point, keep an open mind about the motorcycle that you are looking to buy. But to be totally honest, you guys, if this isn't your first motorcycle, then it's gonna feel quite familiar as soon as you start riding it. It's not gonna feel far too different overall once you start riding it. Like, from the outside it looks big, it looks massive, and even in the cockpit it might feel big and heavy and massive, but as soon as you start riding it, you'll realize that it's not quite as intimidating as you might have thought prior to having your very first go on it. I remember when I had my very first go on my ZZR 1400, and I was so intimidated and so not scared. I was excited, I suppose, but also quite apprehensive, quite nervous that this was the biggest bike I'd ever ridden, and this is one of the fastest motorcycles in the world. One with the most torque, one with the most top speed, one with the most horsepower, you name it. The ZZR 1400 pretty much has got buckets of it, you know, probably far too much, or what people might think is far too much than you'll ever need. But within about 5 minutes of riding the bike, I was so comfortable, I was so happy, and I was just able to enjoy the riding experience. Because these kinds of bikes, despite the fact that they are producing a lot of torque and they are producing a lot of horsepower, it's not all or nothing. You are having to, it's gradual. It's a gradual increase in performance as you open the throttle, right? As you roll on the throttle, you're going to get more power. Yes, these bikes absolutely can, if you're crazy enough to do this, if you want to just, like, you know, go from here and then 100% immediately, they will deliver. They'll be more than happy to give you all the power that you absolutely want at once. But most people aren't going to do that, are they? You know, these bikes have got plenty of power. Even just like 10% throttle, you've got a load of power just in 10% throttle. But yeah, if you are one of those riders that likes to jack on the throttle and get a lot of power very, very quickly, then these bikes, of course, will accommodate that style of riding if you really, really want to, if that's what you want. But for the most part, these bikes are very, very approachable, even though they might seem quite intimidating on paper. But yeah, the first thing you're going to notice is how big and heavy it is. The second thing you're going to notice is how big the cockpit is going to feel. And that's one of the funny things as well, is that even though the cockpit is quite big, it's not a huge reach to the handlebars. The foot pegs aren't really far away from me. This is one of the things that so many riders, especially in the United States, kind of get wrong about bikes like these. These bikes are approachable, right? I'm 5'11", okay, and I'm able to ride this bike perfectly comfortably. Okay, this isn't one of those bikes that is exclusive to people that are over 6 foot, you know, or 7 foot, or something like that, or I don't know, whatever the case might be. All right, this is not one of those motorcycles that because you might be a bigger human being, it doesn't mean that these are the only bikes that will fit you. All right, that is absolutely not the case whatsoever. All bikes will fit most people. All right, I'm not going to say everybody, but all bikes will fit most people, and that is certainly the case with the Blackbird here and my ZR 1400, ZX14. All right, they will fit most people. But a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that, oh, I'm too big for a 600, so I've got to get on a 1400, or I've got to get on 1100 or something. No, you don't. All right, ergonomics and things are the same or very, very similar in terms of the reach and the shape on most bikes. Right, you could quite easily get like my FZ6, for example. Right, it's a Yamaha kind of sport touring motorcycle. It's got a lot of power. Well, I'd say a lot. It hasn't got anywhere near as much as this, but it's got a nice amount of power, and it's a really fun bike. All right. Again, if you are a 7-foot rider, you will fit just as easily or just as badly on that bike as you would do on this. All right. The ergonomics don't change because the size of the bike changes. Okay. The ergonomics, because it makes sense, right? Like, they're going to design ergonomics of a motorcycle to fit as many people as possible. And it's no different. It's no different between the 600, even like a Z400 from Kawasaki, right? It's a very, very small bike. Well, I say very, very small. It's not the smallest, but you know what I mean. It's a small bike in comparison to the FZ6, and also in comparison to this. And it's producing a lot less power than this and the FZ6. But the ergonomics and the seating position are exactly the same. You'll be just as comfortable, or simply not as comfortable on that as you would be on any of the others. I'm not trying to pull your leg here when I mention these things. It's just like I need to get that out there, because I do see a lot of people in the comments of our videos, and a lot of comments and other people's videos of super heavyweight kind of sport touring bikes, and they always say like, oh, this is the only bike that I'll actually ride because it's the only one that I fit on. And that's absolutely not true. That's not the case whatsoever. Please believe me. Anyway, now that we've got that out of the way, just as much as big people would find it, or tall people would find it better to ride something like this stereotypically than a bike that's smaller, the same goes the other way. If you're a smaller rider, these bikes, believe it or not, are actually approachable for you as well. See what I mean about how this is, a motorcycle's ergonomics don't change, or the size of the ergonomics, the length of the ergonomics, if you like, don't change because of the size of the bike. All right. So this is what I mean here, is that a smaller rider, say someone who is 5'4", 5'6", could get on this bike and could ride it comfortably. They might struggle getting their feet on either side of the bike or what have you. You can get lowering kits for that if you really want to. But when you're in the cockpit, when you're actually riding the bike, you won't have any problems riding it, any more or less problems than I do. You know what I mean? I've got no problems riding this bike. You'll have no problems riding this bike either. All right, if you are a smaller rider. My wife is 5'8", and she had a go on my ZR 1400, and she was able to ride it absolutely fine, even though she's a few inches smaller than I am. So that's what I mean, you guys. A smaller rider can absolutely ride one of these big bikes. A bigger rider can absolutely ride a smaller bike. Okay, because an engine size doesn't mean that the bike is bigger or smaller. Yeah, you take a 1000cc bike, for example, you put that next to a 600cc. If there's no detail on the fairings, or no branding or anything like that, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the 1000 and the 600, because they are basically the same size bike in terms of the overall shape, the overall size. They are the same bike, but one has got a much bigger engine in it. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, but yeah, going back to the way how the bike feels. So the one thing that, like I said, that you will have to get used to is going to be that torque, kind of like between 1000 and 4000 RPM. The same kind of goes with the Hayabusa, the same goes with the ZR 1400 as well. But once you get past the mid-range, you're going to get even more power. Then once you get into the top end, you're going to get even more power. That's the thing, these bikes, it's limitless power from these bikes, limitless. On everyday roads, you're going to really struggle to ride this bike 100%. But having said that, you still have loads to play with, loads of power to play with, loads of room to have a lot of fun at perfectly innocent road speeds, alright? So that's the thing, you guys. Like, this bike might seem absolutely pointless, but I'm able to have a lot of fun riding this bike on everyday roads, commuting and things like that, because I've got power where I need it. I've got thrust, I've got the torque right from the get-go. I don't have to spool the bike up to get any kind of power out of it. I've got power immediately and on tap. And that's what I find thoroughly enjoyable about these bikes. You know, that kind of roller coaster experience, that kind of thrown into the back of your seat experience. This is what these bikes give you. And if you enjoy roller coasters, then these are the kinds of bikes that you will thoroughly enjoy as well, in a similar kind of way to me. But yeah, but at the same time, it's not going to feel too different. It's such a weird kind of thing to try and explain, because as much as there are some differences that you have to be aware of before you get on a bike like this, and you know, so you don't wing it, at the same time, when you start riding, everything's going to seem actually quite familiar. So, you know, like the overall length of the bike, when I'm riding it, I don't notice the length of the bike on this any more than I notice the length of my H2 or the FZ6 or the Daytona or any other bikes that I've ridden. I don't notice the length of it, even though the wheelbase is fairly long on these kinds of bikes, at least compared to the norm, compared to most motorcycles. Unless you're used to riding cruisers tend to have quite a long wheelbase as well by default. But if you've ridden sport bikes or sport tourers, then this is probably going to feel probably a little bit different initially, but then when you start riding, again, you're not really going to notice much of a difference. It's funny because recently I've been riding my FZ6 quite a lot, I've been riding the H2 quite a lot, and there are differences. As I ride them, there are differences between the two bikes, for sure. But they're not differences really that I take any notice of. Overall, I mean, the experience is different, and they're enjoyable in different ways. But all in all, in terms of me actually having to focus on how the bike rides, I don't have to focus on it. All I have to do is just get on and ride and enjoy it. You know? So it's it's one of those things that some people might be a little bit concerned about, you know, especially if you are looking to buy one of these bikes and you're getting a little bit of apprehension just before you pull the trigger. Well, hopefully this video will calm your nerves. Trust me, this is not a crazy, unmanageable riding experience, alright? I commute with these bikes every day. I use these bikes every day to get from A to B. They really don't pose me any problems, no more or less problems than I get on the smaller bikes, alright? Because I mean, remember, that's what manufacturers are trying to do here as well. When they build a bike like a Blackbird, they want the specs to be really impressive, but of course they want an average rider, the everyday rider, to be able to enjoy it. And this bike is absolutely perfect in that regard. Like, yes, it's got lots of power if you ever want it, if you ever want to have a go and see how big your cojones are. But at the same time, you don't have to ride it like that. You can quite easily cruise with it and still have one hell of a time. You know, if you want to check out our ride review of this bike, then if I remember, I'll leave it linked in the video description. If I forget, then you can just search Goblin Rides Blackbird, and our ride review should be one of the first things to come up there. If you want to have a deep dive of the specs and how the specs compare to the riding experience of this bike, definitely go and check it out. It is frustrating because as much as there are lots and lots of riders that love bikes like the Blackbird, that love the ZR 1400. I mean, you just watch our videos on these bikes, they have a lot of enthusiast riders, and a lot of them will probably say a lot of the same things that I do, but there are equally as many people that get intimidated by these bikes, that they would never buy them because they're worried about speeding tickets or they're worried about an early demise. That's absolutely not the case. Alright? These bikes are designed to be ridden in a plethora of scenarios, a plethora of different types of riders, different types of riding styles, you know. Honda have done very, very well trying to accommodate this bike for as many riders as possible. And it's the same with the Hayabusa, and it's the same with the ZR 1400. There are certain bikes like the H2, my ZH2, that are a lot more specialist, and they are significantly crazier than bikes like this. And they are top level, they are elite level, they're top tier motorcycles in terms of riding experience, but also in terms of how unapproachable they are
The H2SX is far more in line with these bikes than the ZH2. It's far more manageable. It's far easier to ride and far more sensible, a more sensible riding experience, because these bikes are sensible bikes, believe it or not. I would use that word to describe them. They are sensible bikes and they can be ridden sensibly and enjoyed sensibly. But bikes like the H2, that's not really the way how it's meant to be ridden. It's meant to be a crazier riding experience than something like this. And again, you see a lot of older people riding bikes like these and being very comfy on bikes like these super heavyweight bikes. And the same. That also would apply to younger riders as well, you guys. I mean, maybe younger riders would be a little bit more enthusiastic with the power of the bikes. I don't know. Maybe that's something to consider. If you are a younger rider, maybe like in your 20s or something like that, you're looking to ride something like this, maybe that's a slight issue. But like I said, if you've ridden a couple of bikes before, if you've ridden your 125, if you've ridden your 400s, your 500s, if you've ridden your 600s, then getting on something like this is by no means out of the question. Alright? So absolutely have a look at riding one of these motorcycles if it interests you. And if you want that kind of those bragging rights that come with bikes like these, then definitely give them a go. But also spread the same message as well. Like, if someone asks you, oh, I bet that bike is quick, you can say, yeah, it is quick, but it's a pussycat. Because they're really easy to ride. Honestly, they're not difficult bikes to ride at all. Believe me. Oh, looks like I got to find some fuel on the hungry Blackbird or thirsty Blackbird. But I mean, is there anything else here that I can describe? I mean, in terms of braking performance, it's no different to any other bike, really. I mean, yeah, you absolutely can pull wheelies on these bikes without too much trouble, but the one benefit to these bikes as well is because they have such a long wheelbase, when you are hard on the throttle, it is quite easy keeping the front end down. As easy as it is to keep the front end down, you absolutely can pick up the front end. Alright, that is no trouble at all either. These bikes will happily give you that lunatic hooligan riding experience if that's really something that you want to do. I mean, that was in first gear, that's fairly easy. Clutch ups I'm sure will be easy on this bike as well. I'm not that great at clutch ups, but there's plenty of power on tap, but it's not all at once. You are able to manage it quite effectively and sensibly if you really wanted to. This kind of bike will cater to a lot of different riding experiences. Whatever it is that you are looking for, these bikes, they can cater to you. Alright, but thank you ever so much for joining us on this lovely ride out today on the Honda Super Blackbird. Got to make sure we get the super in there because it's a super bike. It's really good, and it is a top tier motorcycle, top class motorcycle even today, despite the fact that this is an old bike, 2002, and they go back, what, 1997, 1995, something like that. Honda first started making these. They're all still top level bikes even by today's standards. So there aren't many bikes really that you're going to find that are better than this, and any ones that are better are incrementally better. You know, Honda, they did very, very well with this bike, as did Hayabusa, as did Suzuki with their Hayabusa, and so did Kawasaki with their 14. These are all bikes that are memorable, and they're all bikes that deserve to be kind of like Hall of Famers, if you like, you know. But yeah, we're starting to hit the traffic now, so I won't keep you guys too much longer here. Let's see if I can get past this traffic, and then yeah, we'll do the outro. So even like filtering with these bikes, it might be a little bit more difficult because you can't exactly thread these through the eye of a needle. You do have to be a little bit more tactical, I suppose, when you're doing things like filtering. But again, yeah, absolutely doable, you guys. No problem at all for these bikes either. But thank you ever so much for watching our video today. If you've enjoyed it and you've learned something today, or maybe it's encouraged you to get involved in the super heavyweight hype train, I suppose. These bikes are very good. There's no hype whatsoever. They are just that good. They're very, very good bikes. That doesn't discount smaller bikes as well. There are plenty of very, very good smaller bikes out there as well. Let's not forget about the smaller bikes. But yeah, these bikes are very, very good. So if you want to get involved and you're looking for that little bit of an extra push, a little bit of that extra encouragement, then I hope today's video has done that for you. But please go ahead and leave that like, hit that subscribe button down there and that notification bell so you don't miss any more videos on the wicked Honda Blackbird or the ZZR 1400, and maybe soon in the near future, our Hayabusa. I have a plan, you guys. I have a plan, and I'm putting things in motion. So hopefully very, very soon I'll get the opportunity to have a go on a Hayabusa and show that off to you guys as well. So yeah, make sure you guys stay tuned for that, and don't forget to let us know what you think down in the comment section below. If you can leave us a comment, it helps boost this video in the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we really, really appreciate that if you can do that. But thanks again, you guys. You take care, you ride safe. We'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one.